Marvel, you're pushing me over the fucking line here. The cheek. The number of things they were trying to hide in that new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. God damn, I would love to do a proper breakdown video, but we would just never reach the end of this video if I was talking about that for ages first, so we'll move quickly. First off, where was Matt Murdock? I expected them at least to give that one away, but they're keeping their cards close to their chests on that one. Alright. Secondly, and maybe more importantly, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in that GD film, okay? Quick look at this lovely shot from the trailer where Big Tommy is charging at none other than Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard all at once, all on his lonesome. What a brave boy, but oh, what's this now? Lizard gets his head fucking turned by somebody delivering a swift rabbit punch to his skull. Wonder who could be doing that? Additionally, if you look at the shot, it just looks very strange because you got him kind of charging at one in the middle, and then there are two like off to the side, and they're not like coming inwards towards Tom Holland's Spider-Man. No, they're not doing that. They're charging at someone else who is being hidden and edited out of the trailer shot. But they're there. Oh, they're there. Could be somebody else, but frankly, they look a long way off the ground for it to be anybody that can't fly or web sling. Could be Doctor Strange in there. Why hide him? You don't need to. There's no point. Bitches. Now, it isn't impossible that Sony draws on other projects and boldly brings the Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, maybe even Spider-Ham into live action. You know what? I believed that right up until I said the word Spider-Ham. I mean, we did have Crocodile Loki, but come on. Either way, that's not really what we're talking about here today. It's just worth noting those guys are definitely in that film somewhere. It's not, it's fine. I'd bet my left nut on it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. What else is the trailer hiding? Well, Spidey's got a new magical-looking suit at one point. He does steal a MacGuffin-y-looking box from Doctor Strange, so might have something to do with that. That's just an interesting thing to note as well. MJ is seen falling because every Peter in every universe loves to catch his love at the last minute, or break her back while doing so, or whatever. But mayhap this is a moment where Tom Holland will fail to catch her and Andrew Garfield will sweep in and save the day. That's a redemption arc right there. That's a nice... I'd like that one for him. Andrew deserves that. He was good. I like the first film. That's almost too memey, but I imagine we will be taking several shots in this film at Andrew and Tobey's universes because they were great. They were great times, but they also deserve several shots to be taken out of them. Anyway, that's quite enough about the other aspects of the trailer because after all, this one was all about the bad boys, and I know they're always catching my eye. That's a deep cut. Does anyone actually remember that song? Doesn't matter. So all the rumors about which villains will be popping up through those multiversal holes, that sounds oddly dirty. Those rumors have been mostly answered now, or so they'd have you believe. So we already knew there'd be a major part to play in this film for Alfred Mullen as creepily de-aged Dr. Octopus, and that's great because he was a fantastic villain in Spider-Man 2. Best one they've had probably pre-Holland for me. And it's great to see him coming back. He looks devastating in the trailer. He's got a little tint to those tentacles there. You notice that? That's not, maybe not a major thing, but it could mean, because it looks oddly tinted like Iron Man armor. And we're getting a show on Disney Plus called Armor Wars, which is all about people stealing Iron Man's tech. Could Otto have been in the universe for a little while? That might be interesting to note for later on in this video. It's not huge, and it'll be weird to see him having been there for a while because, then why does he not know that Tom Holland is Peter Parker? But it doesn't matter. We also know beyond all reasonable doubt that Willem Dafoe, terrifying bastard extraordinaire, will be making a return as Norman Osborn with a nicely upgraded Green Goblin suit, potentially. That's interesting, because personally I'm still hoping that we get a different Norman Osborn in the main MCU timeline at some point, because even just as a businessman kind of villain, or bankrolling the Dark Avengers, obviously we've got Madam Hydra for that, or as Green Goblin or something, he's just a major villain to introduce in the Prime timeline. Like Magneto or Doctor Doom, he goes beyond just the comics that he's normally in. He's a much bigger villain that could be a proper huge threat for the MCU. I mean, after they do Kang, if that's what they're doing, I think that's what they're doing, then there's not going to be anything bigger to go for. You've got to have a smaller scale villain that you build up to a big crescendo point, you know? Beyond that, it gets a little wackier. We see in the same shot that appears to require more than one Spidey boy that Jamie Foxx's Electro, the Lizard, presumably played by Rhys Ifans again, and Sandman, presumably played by Thomas Hayden Church again, are all a part of this film as well. Now that is interesting because we hear Doctor Strange mention in the trailer that all of these villains coming through our multiversal holes, we have to come up with a better term for that. Breaches? Yeah, sure, okay. They all died in their own universes fighting Spider-Man, and that makes perfect sense, right up until it doesn't. See, Norman Osborn's Green Goblin died fighting Spider-Man in 2002, right after trying one last slippery trick which involved sending his own sharp glider directly at himself. Not terribly intelligent, no. Alfred Molina's amusingly named Dr. Octopus died in 2004's Spider-Man 2 after choosing not to fight Peter anymore and sacrificing himself to save New York City. you know what, it still kind of died during a fight with Spider-Man. Okay, we'll take it. Sandman from Spider-Man 3, see, they've got a villain from each of the 5 Spider-Man films that came before Tom Holland. He definitely didn't die, but we saw in that film at any rate. In fact, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker forgave him for Uncle Ben's death and let him go so he could be with his daughter. What the hell happened there? Either he returned to crime after all of that, which seems kind of unlikely, or, and this is an interesting option, he's not Tobey Maguire's Sandman. It's possible that these villains aren't all coming from those 2 universes. It would make sense. It would make sense for at least some of them to be coming from there, have some sort of connection, previous relationship with Andrew and Toby when they definitely turn up. But it doesn't have to be the case for all of them. Then we've got the Lizard from The Amazing Spider-Man. Kurt Connors was last seen having been healed from the Lizard formula and in a prison cell where a mysterious figure teased future troubles for Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker, and Connors demanded that this figure leave him alone. Now, that doesn't really seem like he was even supposed to be a part of the Sinister Six that Garfield's franchise was supposedly leading up to before it was cut short. Never mind any sort of team-up of villains fighting a different Spidey in a different universe. He's not even the Lizard anymore. Finally, Electro, played again by Jamie Foxx. He's also gotten a significant upgrade in look from that Blue Man Group mess in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And that again may show that this is not the Electro from Garfield's universe. How'd he go completely changing colour to another colour, which is not a people colour? What? Yeah, Electro was pretty purposefully murdered by Peter and Gwen Stacy in the finale of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 before Peter really let things with Gwen slip. It still hurts how shit that film was. So he did indeed die fighting Spider-Man. That means at least 3 of our 5 villains meet Doctor Strange's criteria, but we do hear him mention later in the trailer that he can't hold them back anymore. Are there other villains slipping through that don't necessarily meet those criteria? Just coming through multiversal holes, breaking through because some other villain's masterminding this, or maybe Wanda Maximoff's being a cheeky girl again with all that witchiness and she's creating more cracks in the multiverse after this initial spell fucks things up. We don't know for sure, but that's still not the major talking point about this for me. There is almost certainly one more villain hiding in this trailer. Why? Because for 19 years, ever since 2002 Spider-Man, people have been talking about when are we going to see a full Sinister Six team up on screen. Because every time in the comics that a bunch of Spidey villains come together to try and beat the shit out of him all together, there's 6 of them. It's Sinister Six, it's always the Sinister Six. Why always Sinister Six? Shut up. It doesn't matter, it just always is. So, you think that Marvel, cheeky Marvel, who know full well what they'd be doing, would get 5 Spider-Man villains from different parts of the multiverse together to try and beat the shit out of him and not put a 6th in there? There is a 6th villain hiding in this trailer. The question is, why is he hiding? I would bet my left nut that we're going to see one more villain appear in this film to make a Sinister Six team come together on screen for the first time ever. A grand finale where all 6 feature against 3 Peter Parkers, a Doctor Strange, a Daredevil, maybe a partridge in a pear tree, who knows? It just seems vastly illogical, and Marvel aren't into doing vastly illogical things. If something makes a lot of sense, it's going to happen in the MCU. Now who? We've already got a previous villain from each of the 5 films that came before Tom Holland, so it could be possible that it's a previous Holland villain. I mean, Vulture could come back, though we last saw him protecting Spider-Man's identity while in jail, but he was protecting it from Mac Gargan, who becomes Scorpion in the comics. That could work, but again, it seems like a weird thing to hide. Now, initially, when we talked about a Sinister Six coming together for this film, it was going to be 3 Toby villains, 3 Andrew villains, because we were going to have Rhino, Paul Giamatti's Rhino from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 come in. Again, could happen. Wouldn't be all that disappointing. It's an interesting villain. We didn't really get to see him because he only came in properly at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But 90% of people in that cinema aren't going to remember that Paul Giamatti even played Rhino in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So really, we would need reminded of him in the trailer so that people can go, oh right, that's who he is, before they go into the film. And if the film was going to have a Sinister Six, which is just bringing together these random extra villains from previous films, why not just show it? Why not just say, oh, here's the new trailer, big thing, by the way, ding, 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 we got 6 villains, Sinister Six. It didn't do that. And to me, that means it's got to be something much more important. And there is a shockingly obvious answer to all of this that I haven't heard anybody talking about yet, and I'm mind blown that I haven't. We already saw a Spider-Man villain popping through a multiversal hole suddenly, seeing Peter Parker on TV screens saying that he wanted to fight him or eat him or something like that. Tom Hardy's Venom is surely going to appear in this film, guys. Duh. Let There Be Carnage's post-credits scene, coming a mere 2 months before the release of this film, has to lead into it. There's no way it doesn't. At the very least, you'd expect him to appear in a post-credits scene in No Way Home, but frankly, that just doesn't make sense. If you've got 5 different villains coming from outside of this universe to fight Peter Parker all together in one film, you're going to complete that Sinister Six, and you're going to complete it with the guy who already came through a multiversal hole. We already saw it happen. He's already there. Why would he not turn up, start fighting, maybe leave the Sinister Six, betray them, join Peter Parker's side, help him out, help them win the day, and then get recruited by Blade for some shit? I don't know, I'm just guessing at random various plot threads here, but there's probably no way home for him to his own universe. If we see a Venom 3, it's probably inside the main MCU timeline, like Deadpool 3 is going to be. I'm not saying it'll be a disappointment for them to hide a villain and it to end up being Rhino or Scorpion or Vulture. That's a lot of animal-themed films in that rogues gallery, huh? But it just wouldn't make sense. This trailer gave us snippets of something without doing any big reveals, and adding a shot of one of those other villains in there, that would have told us, oh, Sinister Six is real. That's an awesome reveal for the trailer that's trying, slightly poorly, to hide 2 other Spidey boys in there, and possibly Daredevil. I don't know for sure, but I'd bet my right nut, because I already bet my left nut like twice in this video, that he's hiding in there. It just makes so much sense. This film is already basically like an Avengers 4.5. It might as well just throw him in and say, yep, you thought he was coming in because we told you he was at the end of Venom 2, and yet nobody's talking about it. And he is. There he is. There you go. I mean, it's just him coming in, completing that Sinister Six team, them all facing off against 3 Spider-Man, maybe Daredevil, Doctor Strange additionally. It's just a really sweet-ass piece of movie magic. I want it so badly. I need it. I want it. It's just, Marvel know what they're doing. If this is the end of a proper Spider-Man trilogy, it feels like an ending. That's what Tom Holland said. Then they're going to want to do everything that fans desperately have been clamoring for 2 decades worth of Spider-Man films. Sinister Six is right at the top of that list. Also subscribe to that thing.